Hello everyone, Kris from the Brothers Take here, about to check out an interview that was carried out with Naoki Yoshida, the producer for Final Fantasy 16, which just shares some more information about Final Fantasy 16. I haven't actually checked out this interview yet, so I just wanted to get a recording of going through it to see, because I'm very interested in the next numbered entry in the Final Fantasy franchise. So let's have a look through and see what more there is in store for us. There's obviously the trailer, the latest trailer that came out, which kind of showed off a lot of the combat, a lot of the visuals, and a lot of the summons. Huge focus on the summons. So, you've previously described the story of Final Fantasy 16 as being like an intense roller coaster. What did you mean by that? My idea for Final Fantasy 16 was to bring to life the feeling of playing the lead in an epic motion picture. The same thing I felt when I played through the original Final Fantasy. For my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy 7. And I get that. That was very much like playing through an epic motion picture, and it's been brought to even more life in the remake series. So that sounds good to me. I like those, in particular, Final Fantasy games that stand out the most to me are the ones that feel like sort of a movie or a book brought to life. To give players a breathtaking experience through a combination of an expansive storyline, dramatic cutscenes, and real-time battles, including gargantuan-scale icon clashes, all seamlessly connected. That sounds cool to me, man. It's a white knuckle roller coaster ride in video game form. I love games that are experiential and that the prime focus on the game is to create an experience more than anything else. And that's what this sounds like. So it sounds really cool. I like the motivation behind it. Why have you chosen an action-based battle system for this game? And what reaction do you hope it inspires from players? They've kind of gotten in the action. They've been slowly but surely moving away from turn-based and it's action-based anyway. But so it's been kind of a natural evolution, I feel, of the Final Fantasy franchise. Each new entry in the Final Fantasy series brings with it a new world, new characters, and a new battle system. True that, even though there's similarities throughout. We get a lot of different suggestions from fans about what they want to see in future games, and unfortunately, it isn't possible for us to satisfy every one of them. There are also a lot of younger gamers out there who might never have played a Final Fantasy game before. With Final Fantasy 16, we wanted to appeal to as wide a range of gamers as possible by setting the story in a classic fantasy world that's reminiscent of the early Final Fantasy games, but combining that with fast-paced real-time action. I think that's a really wise move, especially with the 7 Remake trilogy kind of coming out, that's coming out over the next couple of years as well. That's in a modern, more sci-fi setting. It makes a lot of sense that if there's kind of 2 Final Fantasy games coming out within a similar time period, that they'd be drastically different. So to me, it makes sense that 16 is based in a more medieval fantasy. And also, it's been a long time since we've had a medieval Final Fantasy game, especially with modern gameplay and modern graphics and modern sensibilities. So it's a really good move, I think, to make 16 a medieval kind of style fantasy game. We have a comprehensive support system in place for players who aren't too confident with action games, so even if action isn't your thing, I hope you'll give it a try. That's cool. I mean, with these games being so story focused, it's great that there'll obviously be levels like play it on easy difficulty or play it on hard difficulty, that if you're here for the combat, great, we'll up the challenge, and if you're here for the story, then great, here's a smoother ride. So I like that. One other reason we went with an action-based battle system this time around is to push the boundaries of what a Final Fantasy game can be and expand the range of possibilities for the developers who pick up the reins of the series after us. That's cool. It's like passing on the baton in a way. Next question. Summons or icons are an important part of the game. What was so appealing about this element of the Final Fantasy series? The icons of Valisthea, is that the name of the world? I'm not sure. Are similar to weapons of mass destruction in the real world. That's a cool way of putting it. Each nation has one dwelling inside a human host who inherits their powers by particular rules. Okay, that's cool. These hosts are known as dominants, and each dominant has the power to physically transform themselves into their icon. That is really cool. I actually really like that idea. As the ether provided by the mother crystals begins to fade, more crystals, okay, that's a big theme in Final Fantasy, and the nations of Valisthea wage war to seize their rivals' crystals for their own. They resort to sending their icons against each other on the field of war. So these guys are like the big guns to bring in, right? The main storyline of Final Fantasy XVI centers around the dominance and their icons. The reason we wanted to give the icons pride of place in the game is to deliver a unique experience where you're controlling these enormous summons and using them to battle against each other. It's a Final Fantasy first. I saw that in the trailer, like it looked like almost a fighting game where you're using the summons. That's really cool. But now it also means that each summon or icon is a character as well. Like there's another person behind each one of those, which is your dominant. So there's a huge cast of characters here, possibly. But as well, does that mean, like, how many of them do you get to control? And can you get to control the ones that you take on? The next question, you've reunited with, apologies if I mispronounce any of these names, Masayoshi Soken for the game. What made him the right choice to lead this game's music? Reunited. So did he work on 14? Because I know a lot of these guys were Final Fantasy 14. I've been making games with Soken for many years now, and he's the composer who best understands not only what but what our director Hiroshi Takai and creative director Kazutoyo Mihiro imagine as the right kind of soundscape for a Final Fantasy game. Cool. Of course, the most important factor is that his musical style inherits a lot from Nobuo Uematsu, the father of Final Fantasy music. No truer words than that. The man is a genius. And he's always striving to follow in the master's footsteps. I respect that. That's cool, man. Like, you know, you gotta put, you know, there is a pedestal there. But I respect that. It's like, okay, follow the footsteps, but also carve your own path and make something new. Finally, do you have a message you'd like to share with the fans? I know I've kept you all waiting for a long time, but it's a great relief to finally be able to bring you the latest information about Final Fantasy XVI. We plan to share some more details about the world and the story sometime this autumn. Great, that's not too long to wait. But I hope the latest trailer and media interviews could keep your imaginations racing until then. The whole development team helmed by our director, Hiroshi Takai, is pulling together to make the game the best that it can be, so please look forward to it. And then it just basically goes to say, Final Fantasy 16 releases summer 2023 for PS5. I can't wait. You know, there's a lot of exciting things coming out of Final Fantasy. This is a great interview. It shines a bit of light because a lot of stuff is said in the trailer and it's just sort of assumed you know exactly what they're talking about. Great trailer, by the way. The music and the visuals are awesome, but there is a bit of confusion about what are they talking about. So this really clears up that there's, you know, these characters called dominants, that they have the power of the icons inside them and then they can transform into them. I think that's really cool. That's a really cool direction for Final Fantasy and incorporating the summons into the story. It sounds like it's war times, which is very classic old school Final Fantasy, especially for the medieval setting. And I'm excited to hear more about it, to see more about it, and to play it next summer when it comes out. I feel like it definitely will. I don't think it'll get delayed. I think it will hit that summer 2023 release on PS5. But I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys like the sounds of Final Fantasy 16, or if you have any other further information that maybe this interview didn't share, or if you have any theories or any other things you're looking forward to from Final Fantasy 16, please jump down in the comments, share your thoughts. And while you're here, why not give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel? We will be covering more Final Fantasy stuff in the future, including, of course, the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, because that is something that we are huge fans of. So please do subscribe to the channel for that, and click the notification bell for all future content. We'll be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.